What if your birth chart carried secrets from another lifetime? Whispers from a version of you that once walked the earth in a different body, a different time, a different skin? What if your current personality quirks, fears, habits, and even talents weren't just random, but echoes of past identities? Your soul once embodied. The South Node in your natal chart isn't just an abstract symbol. It is a portal, a karmic fingerprint, a sacred map pointing to the lives you've already lived, the contracts your soul once signed, and the emotional imprints you've carried through the veil of death and rebirth. In modern astrology, the South Node is often misunderstood or oversimplified. Some call it the bad karma or the stuff to leave behind. But the truth is far more nuanced and far more empowering. Your South Node reveals a reservoir of past life experiences, strengths you've already mastered, relationships you've cycled through patterns you know too well. It's the part of your soul that says, "I've been here before." And while it can feel familiar, like coming home, it can also be the very thing that prevents you from evolving. Imagine the South Node as the soil you've already grown from. It's fertile, rich with memory, but also entangled with roots that can either nourish you or choke you if left unexamined. In this video, we're going to dive deep into what the South Node really is, not just astrologically, but spiritually. We'll explore how its placement by sign and house reveals specific karmic lessons, unresolved emotions, and spiritual themes from previous incarnations. You'll begin to understand why certain parts of your life feel like déjà vu, why you're drawn to certain people or experiences, and why some lessons keep repeating. But this isn't about labeling your past life or getting lost in romantic fantasies. It's about reclaiming your story, understanding the blueprint your soul chose, so you can stop repeating unconscious cycles and start moving toward the life your soul actually came here to live. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand your South Node, you'll be able to spot the invisible scripts running beneath your everyday choices. And more importantly, you'll learn how to honor the past without being bound by it. Because your past life does not define you, but it is asking to be remembered. To truly grasp the power of the South Node, we have to unlearn the rigid view of astrology as merely psychological profiling. The South Node isn't just a personality trait, it's an energetic scar. It's the signature left behind by everything your soul has already experienced, accomplished, and failed to resolve. In esoteric astrology and ancient metaphysical teachings, the soul is understood as eternal, but the human experiences it chooses to undergo are not. They are temporary, cyclical, and purposeful. The South Node represents the culmination of these cycles, your soul's old operating system. Positioned opposite the North Node in the chart, the South Node acts like a gravitational pull. It's the path of least resistance, the comfort zone, the old habits that your soul clings to because they feel safe and familiar. But familiarity isn't always healthy. Just like in life, the things we've done 1,000 times are often the very things that keep us stuck. The South Node symbolizes what the soul has over-identified with talents it once mastered, personas it wore too tightly, or ego identities it couldn't let go of. And while those things might appear as gifts in this lifetime, they often carry karmic weight that can become spiritual inertia. For instance, someone with the South Node in Leo may have been a performer, a ruler, or a powerful figure in past lives, accustomed to recognition and admiration. In this life, they may still seek the spotlight, but find it empty, exhausting, or filled with identity crises. Why? Because the soul is ready to evolve. The same applies to someone with a South Node in Pisces, who may have spent lifetimes in spiritual or monastic settings, comfortable with transcendence, but overwhelmed by the material world. This lifetime asks them to come down to earth, to integrate spirit and structure. What makes the South Node so magnetic is that it's ingrained in your energetic memory. These aren't just tendencies, they're deeply embedded soul patterns. And unless they are brought to conscious awareness, they silently dictate the themes of your relationships, your desires, your emotional reactions, and your self-worth. This is why some people feel like they've been born tired, because they're still carrying the echoes of soul contracts they forgot to complete. When you see your South Node not as a flaw, but as a karmic inheritance, everything begins to shift. You stop trying to fix your life from the surface. You start digging deeper into the ancestral, the symbolic, the multidimensional. The South Node invites you to become a soul archaeologist, to uncover what's buried, not to dwell in it, but to liberate yourself from the scripts that no longer serve your becoming. This is the karmic portal, and crossing through it requires one thing: awareness. If the zodiac sign of your South Node tells you how your past life energy expresses itself, then the house placement tells you where that karma shows up in your current life. It's the stage, the theater, the specific area of your life where your soul's old habits, patterns, and attachments are most likely to replay themselves. And just like in any good drama, if you don't become aware of the script, you'll keep acting out the same roles again and again without ever realizing that you're stuck in a loop. Let's take an example. If your South Node falls in the 4th house, your soul is deeply entangled in themes of home, family, emotional safety, and the past. You may have been caretaker in past lives, or perhaps overly attached to domestic life ancestry or clannish identity. In this life, you might struggle to move beyond your roots, or feel an inexplicable heaviness tied to your upbringing, even if it wasn't objectively traumatic. You may feel magnetized toward protecting others, yet suffocated by your own emotional walls. Now contrast that with a South Node in the 10th house. This suggests past lives tied to public image, ambition, status, and external achievement. You may have been a political figure, a business leader, or someone who lived for the expectations of society. In this lifetime, you may find yourself obsessed with success or fearful of failure, not because you're shallow, but because your soul is trying to break free from defining its worth through performance. Each house paints a different karmic landscape. In the 7th house, relationships become karmic playgrounds. Your soul may have over-prioritized partnership in past lives and now attracts codependent dynamics. In the 2nd house, self-worth and material security may be recurring challenges rooted in past lifetimes of survival struggle or wealth attachment. In the 8th house, the past life imprint involves power control and transformation. Perhaps you were involved in occult knowledge, sexual power, or taboo realms. What makes the house placement so revealing is that it often manifests early in life, subtly shaping your identity long before you learn astrology. You don't have to believe in past lives to notice these patterns. Look at the areas of your life where you feel compulsive, overly comfortable, or strangely resistant to change. That's usually where the South Node's karma is playing out behind the scenes. And the more you ignore it, the louder it becomes until it forces your attention through crisis fatigue or emotional stagnation. Understanding the house placement is like shining a light on the hidden room of your soul's blueprint. It reveals where you've built walls out of old lifetimes and where you now have the power to build bridges toward your true evolution. The zodiac sign of your South Node holds the archetypal energy your soul once embodied across one or many incarnations. It's not always literal. You weren't necessarily born under that sign in a past life, but the frequency, the mode of operation, and the identity you carried reflects its themes. Each sign tells a different karmic story, like a myth your soul once lived often too well. Let's begin with Aries' South Node. This soul remembers being fiercely independent, perhaps a soldier, a pioneer, a lone survivor. These individuals are instinctive and reactive, often reliving past life scripts where they had to rely on no one but themselves. In this life, the challenge is learning cooperation and vulnerability instead of defaulting to combativeness or isolation. A Taurus South Node carries memories of comfort routine and material security. These souls might have lived lifetimes as farmers, artisans, or caretakers of land and beauty. But now they may resist change or spiritual growth, clinging to what's safe. Their challenge, embracing the unknown and releasing attachment to possessions or sensory addiction. Gemini South Node suggests lifetimes of mental agility, perhaps as a teacher messenger or trickster. These people may instinctively talk their way through life, but struggle to access deeper truth or intuitive wisdom. The soul lesson here is to move from mind to meaning, from cleverness to higher understanding. Cancer South Node. Souls often remember lifetimes rooted in family tribe or emotional bonds. They may default to nurturing others while ignoring their own needs. The challenge in this life: cultivating emotional sovereignty and stepping into personal power without guilt. With Leo South Node, the soul recalls lifetimes of visibility, actors, leaders, kings, or performers. While they may still crave recognition, their growth lies in letting go of ego validation and stepping into humble service and collaboration. A Virgo South Node carries imprints of service precision and humility, perhaps a monastic or healer archetype. These souls may struggle with perfectionism, anxiety, or overworking. Their task is to transcend control and allow for holistic spiritual wholeness. Libra. South Node souls have been diplomats, lovers, or peacekeepers, overly focused on the needs of others. Now they must remember how to stand alone, make bold choices, and develop personal identity. Scorpio South Node indicates past lives entangled with intensity power, secrecy, or death rebirth dynamics. The soul is used to navigating shadows, but may resist stability or peace. This lifetime calls for embodiment and simplicity. Sagittarius South Node souls were seekers, wanderers, or philosophers. They may resist the mundane and chase truth without roots. Their lesson now to ground wisdom in everyday reality and form. Capricorn South Node recalls lifetimes of duty, authority, or structure. These souls may carry a weighty seriousness born old. Their liberation lies in reawakening joy, softness, and inner child play. Aquarius South Node signals a past focused on collective ideals or rebellion. These souls may have been detached, overly intellectual, or revolutionary. Their evolution involves intimacy, emotional presence, and anchoring into the body. Lastly, Pisces South Node. Souls may have floated through lifetimes of mysticism, escape, or dissolution. Monks, addicts, artists. Now they must return to Earth, claim responsibility, and bring their gifts into tangible service. Each sign's South Node is a breadcrumb trail leading back to the archetype your soul knew intimately. But you are not meant to live there anymore. You're meant to bow to it and walk forward. Understanding the South Node intellectually is one thing, but the real initiation happens when you begin to feel its presence in your life. This isn't just a symbolic position on a chart. It's an energetic imprint in your emotional body. It lives in your instincts, your reactions, your unspoken fears, and your automatic pilot behaviors. You know you're touching the South Node when something feels both hauntingly familiar and quietly exhausting. It's the pattern that makes you say, "Why does this always happen to me?" Or "I don't know why I do this. I just always have." The South Node doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up as emotional muscle memory, gravitational pulls towards certain types of relationships, environments, or roles. You might feel strangely drawn to people who mirror your old wounds. You might keep finding yourself in the same situation over and over again, despite trying to choose differently. This is how past life karma operates, not through logic, but through resonance. What remains unresolved seeks repetition, not for punishment, but for awareness. Some of the most powerful South Node manifestations come through grief without cause, guilt without reason, or talents without training. Maybe you have a gift for healing languages or performance, yet no idea where it came from. Or maybe you've carried sorrow since childhood, a sadness that doesn't seem to belong to this life. That's the emotional echo of other incarnations' memories, without context, but not without weight. The key here is emotional honesty. Most people unconsciously cling to their South Node because it provides a sense of identity. But this identity is rooted in survival, not in freedom. You don't need to discard the past, but you do need to feel it fully in order to release it. The fear of being abandoned, of failing, of losing control, of being insignificant. These are not just psychological patterns, they are karmic residues. The South Node teaches us that before we evolve, we must grieve. Before we awaken, we must remember. And before we can step into who we're becoming, we must bless who we were. When you finally recognize the South Node not as a weakness, but as a message from your soul, your entire life begins to make more sense. The struggles become sacred, the repetitions become revelations, and the heaviness starts to lift because the past is no longer in control. You are. This is not just astrology. This is the art of remembering. One of the most deceptive aspects of the South Node is that it doesn't always feel like a problem. In fact, it often feels like a strength. That's what makes it dangerous. These are the parts of us we pride ourselves on, the personality traits we've mastered, the coping mechanisms we call just who I am, the skills that make us competent in the world. But when overused or unconsciously clung to these gifts, become traps. What once helped your soul survive in past lifetimes now quietly prevents it from evolving. Take, for example, someone with a South Node in Virgo. Precision, organization, discernment, these are all admirable qualities. But when they're driven by anxiety, fear of imperfection, or obsessive control, they become prisons. That soul may have spent lifetimes as a healer servant or ritualist, rewarded for perfection. In this life, however, their growth lies in surrendering to the unknown, in trusting intuition over order, or consider the South Node in Leo. These individuals may have been powerful leaders, performers, or nobles in other lives, accustomed to praise, admiration, and influence. But now the craving for attention can mask a fragile ego. They might struggle to feel worthy without validation, forgetting that true power is internal, not performative. Every sign has its trap. Capricorn South Node, the relentless achiever who can't rest without guilt. Pisces South Node, the dreamer who dissociates instead of confronting reality. Libra South Node, the peacekeeper who betrays themselves to maintain harmony. What makes these traps so difficult to break is that they masquerade as virtues, and in moderation, they are. But the South Node is not about balance. It's about overcompensation. These are the behaviors your soul defaults to under stress, fear, or uncertainty. When life feels unstable, the South Node is the old blanket you wrap yourself in. But comfort isn't the same as growth. The tragedy of the South Node trap is that it offers temporary safety in exchange for long-term stagnation. You survive, but you don't thrive. The real challenge is letting go of these familiar roles without shame. Not because they're wrong, but because they've simply run their course. The soul is not here to repeat, it's here to evolve. That doesn't mean you abandon your gifts, it means you stop worshiping them as your identity. You integrate them, release the compulsions behind them, and make space for what comes next. The moment you recognize your South Node trap is the moment you reclaim your sovereignty. You're no longer living a story on repeat. You're writing a new chapter, one where the past is a foundation, not a cage. The South Node is only one half of the soul's map. The other half, the one that points toward your becoming, is the North Node. If the South Node shows where you've been, the North Node reveals where your soul longs to go. It's not the easy path. In fact, it often feels deeply unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. But that's the point. The North Node is not a destination you've mastered. It's the evolutionary edge, your soul's chosen curriculum in this lifetime. True spiritual growth doesn't come from rejecting the South Node, but from integrating it, transmuting its gifts, while moving toward the polarity of the North Node. This process is not linear. You don't graduate from one node to another. Instead, you dance between them. You take the wisdom of the South Node, strip away the ego attachment, and use it to serve the North Node's higher calling. Imagine someone with a South Node in Scorpio and a North Node in Taurus. Their soul knows how to navigate crisis, intensity, and transformation. But in this life, they're being asked to embody peace, stability, and groundedness. It's not about denying their depth, it's about channeling it into building something tangible. Or someone with a South Node in Gemini and a North Node in Sagittarius, they've lived lives of chatter, collecting facts, adapting endlessly. Now they're called to speak truth, to commit to a path, to see the bigger picture, rather than stay in the safety of scattered knowledge. This polarity teaches us that evolution doesn't require abandoning who we were. It requires growing beyond it. The south node is the soil, but the north node is the sun. You need both to grow, and the tension between them creates the friction that refines the soul. Integration also means recognizing when you've slipped back into the old patterns. The south node never disappears. It's always there, like an old friend who tempts you with nostalgia. But once you taste the north node, once you feel the vitality and meaning that comes from stretching into the unknown, the comfort of the past begins to lose its appeal. Living from the north node requires courage. It asks you to trust your soul more than your personality. It challenges you to walk paths you didn't inherit, to claim desires you don't fully understand yet, and to let go of identities that once kept you safe, but now keep you small. This is the journey of integration, not balance, not suppression, but alchemy. You are here to evolve, not into something foreign, but into the version of yourself that has always been waiting just beyond the familiar. As we reach the end of this journey, one truth becomes clear. You are not a blank slate. You didn't come into this life empty-handed. You carried with you the echo of lifetimes, ancient habits, sacred wounds, soul contracts, and forgotten talents. And your south node is the doorway to all of it. But this isn't a call to obsess over who you once were. It's a call to remember, so you can finally stop reliving the same patterns in disguise. Your past life energy doesn't need to be feared or glorified. It needs to be understood. Because when you see your emotional reactivity, your subconscious loops your strange déjà vu moments, not as personal failures, but as the residue of a soul mid-journey. Something shifts. Compassion enters. Awareness expands. And from there, real transformation becomes possible. The gift of the South Node is self-awareness. It tells you, this is where you've been strong, but also where you've been stuck. It's the imprint of your soul's former identities, not as a cage, but as compost. You're meant to grow from it, not to erase it, but to honor it as the very foundation of your next becoming. And if you've felt tired, stuck, or like you've been running in circles, there's a good chance your soul has been repeating instead of evolving. But now you know. Now you see the pattern. And when the pattern is seen, it begins to lose its power over you. This isn't just about astrology, it's about liberation. Because when you stop identifying with the echoes of who you used to be, you become available to who you could be. The North Node may seem far uncertain, even impossible, but that's because it's not something you've done before. It's something your soul chose to grow into in this life on purpose. You are not defined by the karma you carry, but you are shaped by it until you choose otherwise. So look at your chart again. Find your South Node, and instead of asking, "What does this say about me?" try asking, "What does this reveal about who I no longer need to be?" Because your past life may explain your story, but your future is still yours to write. Subscribe if this resonated. Share your South Node in the comments. And remember, the stars don't control you. They remind you